What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Unknown Destination, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything travel. My name is Justin, and that is Andrew over there. We are both travel industry professionals who are technically currently employed in the travel industry, so that's a great change since the last time we recorded this.
Yeah, I'm going back tomorrow actually to start. So
I think I'm about the same time next week, so
yeah, so we'll still be doing the podcast. We'll just have to try to find some time when both of us are available. Maybe lunch breaks.
yeah, well, the good news is I'm going back part-time, so I'll have more time than, well, you are too, so I'm sure
Yeah,
we'll be able to work it out.
yeah, full time in quotes. So we'll see. We'll see what that means.
Mm. All right, well, let's jump right into it. As you guys know, basically, we're starting off every podcast with anything that's COVID-19 related and then trying to move on to the more positives. And this week, I think there's a lot more positive news than there actually is. There's a lot of reopening news, too, even with the COVID related stuff. So I think it's going to be a very positive podcast this week.
Yeah, so if you're not really interested in kind of COVID as it pertains to the travel world, we'll go ahead and put that in our YouTube. You can just skip forward to the next piece that we'll probably be tackling airlines and all that good stuff. But yeah, jumping right into it, I kind of wanted to touch on vaccine passports. I know that anybody that's kind of been watching the news lately, a lot of local news as well as national news have been using that term, but they don't really have a definition for it because nobody has one yet that it can be kind of a universal end all be all for your traveling needs. With that being said, Hawaii is actually looking to roll out a vaccine passport by this summer so that they can assist with their reopening of the islands. So this is going to be pretty big if they can get this implemented in time for the summer travel. Now, this is kind of for a vaccine passport is exactly what it sounds like. They're trying to make a digital passport so that you can kind of prove what vaccines you've had. Which honestly, in my opinion, I feel like this should have already been in the works a long time ago,
Yeah.
especially for considering international travel. And maybe it has been, and they just haven't really talked about it. But you think about just going to Africa or South America or any of these places where you're going to potentially run into a disease that you wouldn't normally if you live in Europe or the States or Canada, just by climate changes. So.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention in that too, there's a lot of, especially here in the US, political posturing when it comes to these vaccine passports. And I think it's important as travel industry professionals for us to mention that this isn't something new. There's a lot of countries that require you to have certain vaccines before you can go to them, or you have to have those vaccines to be allowed back into the US. That's been a thing for dozens of years
Long
at this
time.
point. So it's not anything new. It's just a new vaccine for a new disease. As far as if it's going to change or not, we'll see. We'll see what countries require it. It's definitely going to be up to that individual country what they're going to do. But this is a way to get us traveling sooner and safer. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that they're looking at possibly a QR code that could be downloaded onto your phone. So that way it can be scanned quickly and efficiently at borders and through airlines. So that way they're not having to physically look at things. The problem with that is a lot of countries, as well as the CDC, are holding firm that you need to show someone your vaccine records, and it has to be human eyes. They don't want it automated. They're not comfortable automating something like that at this time.
See, I like the idea of automated because you're able to screenshot it, and if you're not getting like service or whatever, you're good.
That's my biggest. Yeah, that would be my biggest. And that might be something where if it is a QR code that you could absolutely do that. So that would be, or even what I would consider doing is screenshotting that and printing out a copy of your QR code and keeping it on your person. That way, if you happen to lose your phone or your phone breaks, you're not going to be, up the creek without a paddle. So
yeah, that's nothing new for me either. I mean, every time I fly, and use a digital boarding pass, I always screenshot it just in case I have issues when I get to the gate. So I always have it. So
Yeah, and I'm boomer one step further where I always have it printed. So I'll have the digital one, but I'll also have the paper copy just in case. So, so the vaccine passports, they don't have a timeline or anything on this. The biggest issue is trying to come up with something that can be used worldwide. This is going to be low cost as well as accepted by the majority of countries. And speaking of Hawaii's kind of changes, wanting to get people back in because tourism is obviously a huge thing in Hawaii, they're demanding they're the demand for advisors, so travel agents is in record numbers because people are so confused at how to navigate these entry rules for Hawaii specifically, because the islands are also kind of differentiating, so you don't really
They are.
know where you're allowed to go, what you need to do.
Yeah, so I think kind of jumping into what you just mentioned, let's go to a specific island really quick because I do have some new guidance specifically for the island of Maui, which is where I would say the majority of travelers are probably flying into. Um, at this point, they do have updated guidance on quarantining when you arrive. And that is that when you arrive, you will need to take an additional COVID-19 test. They already require that you have had one 72 hours before you travel there. Now they're doing a rapid test again when you arrive at the airport. And you either have to take that test or quarantine for 10 days. So there are still places around the world where you're still having to quarantine. The island of Maui is going to be one of them.
Yeah, and actually, that's since we're on this kind of subject anyway, I do want to bring up the UK if anybody was looking to travel to London or anywhere in that region for this summer that you're probably not going to want to. Their restrictions are extremely intense. Um, they're planning on reopening international travel starting May 17th, but leisure travel out of the UK is banned for UK citizens. So they're basically allowing people to come in for tourism, but not allowing their own people to leave to go on vacation, which is very strange to me, first off. And then they're doing what they call the traffic light system, where if you're in a green country, then there is less restrictions than a red country. However, this is going off of CDC, which every country is amber or red. So you're either yellow or red. And
Yeah.
if you're still like, I really want to go to London, if you come from an amber country, you have to self isolate for 10 days and you cannot be tested to release your self quarantine until day 5. Um, so that's 5 days of you being self quarantined before you can do anything. And then you also have to have another test on day 8. Um, if you're in a red country, you have to be quarantined at a hotel for 10 days. And this is your money out of pocket. Government chooses hotel. All around, you cannot
No
test to
bueno.
release early. Yeah, I don't see that that's going to really reopen anything. So
No. Well, while we're on the subject of places you can't go, I want to get into where we can eventually, but I have one more here. And that is that the CDC, as of yesterday, issued new guidance to American travelers against traveling to Canada, even if you are vaccinated. The reason for that is because Canada is currently in the throes of a third COVID-19 wave, and they're currently actually on track to outpace the US in rates of new infections.
wow,
That's
I
kind
did
of
not know
crazy to
that.
me because of how poorly the US handled it compared to Canada in the beginning. But
Yeah,
things
they're
are
just
kind
getting
of
theirs later.
yeah, things are kind of changing around here. Obviously, a couple of the vaccines were developed here, so we had access to them a little bit sooner. But they're seeing a lot of the newer variants as well. That UK variant that came about a few months ago is actually the dominant variant in the US and Canada as of right now. And there's just less known about the vaccines and how effective they are against that. So, because of that, the CDC is saying for now, if you don't need to travel to Canada, don't. Honestly, that shouldn't be that hard though, because from what I know, the Canadian border is still basically closed anyway.
Yes, yeah.
So you weren't going to go for leisure travel, but this is going to affect business travelers that may have needed to go there and now are going to need to do things virtually.
Yeah, I think the last thing I just want to touch on with those passports is that this is definitely not a new idea, and Israel, which they're usually kind of at the forefront when it comes to things like this, kind of taking care of their people first. they began issuing their digital green passes or physical certificate to people who have been vaccinated. This started in February, and it's actually required to enter most places, such as hotels and movie theaters. So
Oh.
this, for those that may be on the fence about getting the vaccine, do not be surprised if this starts happening to these privately owned businesses that um, are going to mandate this because they can. It's your choice to get it or not get it. It's also their choice to let you in or not let you in. So um, just keep that in mind and be prepared for that if you're traveling internationally, especially. If you're trying to travel internationally unvaccinated, you're probably going to have a bad time unless you're just out hiking in the woods for the entire time. Just from what I'm reading from all of the different, especially Europe, just because usually if you're going to Europe, you're going to multiple countries. So you're going to be thinking about quarantine a lot.
I would agree, especially on the international side. As far as domestic travel here in the States, a lot of airline CEOs have come out against the vaccine passport. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
they lost a lot of business last year, so that's a financial decision for them that, if they want to make as much money back as they can. So it kind of makes sense for them to come out against it because more people traveling.
Yeah.
Uh, Morals of that or whatever, that's your own opinion. But it is important to realize that if you want to go almost anywhere international, that's probably something that's on its way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all I got for the nasty vid news.
Good.
I think that we can. I want to jump into this article because we've touched on this in many episodes, and that would be the 737 Max planes. Um, if you've been paying attention, uh, you've seen some news this past week that they are grounded again. The Boeing 737 Maxes, and so these are just a quick recap. These are the planes that went down over in Malaysia, is if I'm not mistaken, a couple years ago, or was it Indonesia? It was
It was
Eastern,
Indonesia.
yeah, um, due to technical errors that were not the pilot's faults. This is something that was internal that could not be avoided. And now Boeing has just announced, and this is from the New York Times, Boeing tells airlines to stop flying some 737 MAX planes. This is in conjunction with Southwest having electrical power issues on their 737 aircraft, and they've grounded portions of them. Apparently there are ways that they can check to see which ones are affected, but obviously that will take time to. So it looks like the majority of US airlines are grounding almost all of their 737 Maxes at this moment.
Yeah, just to give you kind of an idea, I do have the exact numbers for every airline, and that Southwest took 30 of their 30 of their 58 Max 8s out of the air. American 17 of their 41, and United 16 of their 30. So most of them, it's at least half of their fleet. This is
Mm-hmm.
a problem that happened during manufacturing, and it's something that is addressed back to before these were delivered to the airlines. So sounds like this is just something else that was completely, excuse me,
Yeah, something
oh,
completely missed.
completely
Yeah.
missed.
Yeah, I can't imagine I guess how irritated some of these, because you think the airlines really don't get that many new aircraft per year. So to have that many um aircraft just being kind of dust collectors, there's got to be stuff going behind the scenes, I would think, to reimburse them for this kind of loss.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to see. Obviously, there's really two big aircraft manufacturers on major jets at this point, and that's Airbus and Boeing. We're seeing more and more negative news about Boeing and not hearing anything bad about Airbus. So I think we're going to see
Yeah.
that affecting future orders here within the next decade.
Yeah, that's I would not be surprised also if another player comes into the manufacturing world when it comes to airlines or aircraft, just because there's kind of a growing monopoly in that world now that Boeing is kind of wet the bed on everything in the past few years.
That is very true. But as far as airlines, specifically you mentioned Southwest. I just want to give some positive news about them. We talked a little bit about airlines recalling pilots in the last episode. Well, Southwest just recalled 2.7 thousand, so 2,700 flight attendants for summer travel. So another positive trend in people going back to work. As we mentioned, we're both going back. So uh, employment numbers in the travel industry should start to go up here pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's even just from the couple days that I have spent on my work PC trying to clear out my 3,500 emails that were still sent to me during furlough. It looks like the demand is coming back pretty quickly, even on the business side. So
Yeah.
that's really, really good news for anybody that is into the industry, anybody that's kind of been holding out, trying to hang on. I would say that it's definitely looking brighter for hospitality and tourism in general.
Yeah, we discussed last episode. Go back and listen to that if you want to hear more about it. But there's a shortage
Do it
of
anyway.
employees for like hotels, exactly, for hotels and things like that. Uh, I think that's going to become a problem for travel agencies too, as a lot of those who are experienced are very hesitant to go back because they're afraid of something like this happening again and them not having their jobs. Uh,
Yeah.
I already was welcome to come back as a part-timer to a company that I just had started at. I guarantee you that there were hundreds, if not thousands of people that were laid off that had been there for years that decided either to change industries or just go ahead and retire.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was retiring. If you look
Yeah.
at the demographic of kind of the travel industry as a whole, a lot of them are the boomer generation that are looking to retire. So we had the big General Motors buyout of a lot of people, a decade or so ago. And
Mhm.
that was like a huge retiring point for a lot of that generation. And I think that the pandemic was another huge one. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of positions opening up here as things are opening around the world, and I would say it's a really good time to get into the travel industry because you're getting in at its lowest point it will and has ever been at. So a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities there.
Okay, well, let's keep on the positive news here. I have news about a couple new airlines coming to the budget market here in the US. And
Fantastic.
the names of these are Avelo and Breeze. Avelo is going
Hmm.
to be operated out of Burbank, California, and Breeze will fly out of Salt Lake City. Avelo is going to begin by offering nonstop flights to 11 destinations actually later this month. They are operating three Boeing 737-800 planes. They each have 189 seats, and their low fares are as low as $19 one way.
Wow.
So yeah, another great carrier. And
We
they
need more
basically
of these.
we do. And what their CEO, Andrew Levy, said is that there are too few
Great
seats
name.
in the US being offered by low cost carriers. And that's why they think the opportunity is huge. If you
Yeah.
recognize that name and you're within the industry, you might recognize him because he is one of the co founders and former president of Allegiant Airlines, as well as the former CFO of United. So
Oh,
he's got some experience
interesting.
in there.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting. It's in huh.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to look more into him as to why he is no longer with United.
probably because he wanted to start his own airline,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
which he had already done before with Allegiant. So he's
Yeah.
got the experience.
Mhm.
The other airline, Breeze, is currently running their proving flights for the FAA and is expecting to release more information on upcoming flights and fares as early as next week. So hopefully next podcast we'll have more information from them. But they
Awesome.
they are backed by industry veteran David Neilman, who was the founder of JetBlue and helped WestJet take off in Canada. So
That's
these are
promising.
it's very promising. These are two low cost carriers, which is an underserved market, aiming that have people with experience in beginning airlines that are aiming for places that flights just currently don't have enough flights.
Hmm.
It sounds like a great business plan to me, and I'm very excited to see where these airlines end up flying to.
Yeah, I actually have another airline that is planning to reconnect Canada and the US. So this is kind of in the wake of I know we didn't touch on it, but there was an Air Canada Air Transit merger that was going to
Mhm.
be taking place that was terminated. Um, Basically, uh, the government said, no, that's not happening. They thought that it was going to cause Air Canada to have way too much power, which they already do in the skies when it comes to Canada. So that got squashed, and so this new airline is called Connect Airlines, and this is going to be kind of a way to they want to kind of get business travelers back into post-pandemic Canada. So this is the second company formed by John Thomas. So this is who also created a business jet firm in the U.S. called Waltzing Matilda Aviation. So that company is based in Boston, and he thinks that this is the right time for to contest business routes between Billy Bishop Airport in Toronto and the northeastern/midwestern U.S. So you may even see flights, from St. Louis to Canada on this new airline that will be coming. So very interesting. It says the airline plans to take hold of X-Flybe-8 aircraft.
Yeah.
So these are the aircraft that have just been sitting in the UK since the airline collapsed in March of 2020. This was kind of the first casualty of the pandemic. Obviously, Flybe had been kind of struggling at that point, so you can't really blame the pandemic. It just it coincided with the pandemic, but the pandemic's beginning.
So that's interesting. I'll be very interested to see if it comes to St. Louis, because if it's Flybe aircraft, that means they're flying turboprops. That's a pretty long haul for a turboprop aircraft.
Yeah, you think that's what, about 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah,
from Toronto. Yeah, not too bad though. But it's it looks like they're going to be competing with obviously Porter, because that is one of their main airports that they fly out of. But yeah, I think it's great to have another option to get into Canada from the U.S., even if at this point it's only from Toronto to basically the Midwest. So the West Coasters are still out of luck trying to get over there, but more options are a good thing.
I mean, you would expect them, if they're flying into the Midwest, to either fly out of Midway or O'Hare in Chicago, which is a big connection point for a lot of flights coming from the West Coast anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. It looks like Porter's operations to the U.S. have been suspended since 2020. Obviously, that's, I mean, in and out of Canada, everything's been suspended since 2020. But the route map that they're going to be contesting is Chicago Midway, Newark, Dulles, Boston, seasonal to Myrtle Beach. So they're planning on kind of going after all of Porter's routes. So this could be really, really beneficial for the traveler. So keep an eye on that, because you may find extremely low fares if they're competing like this.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so the next thing I have, it's kind of air related, but I wanted to touch on it now because we're talking about actually booking flights on airlines, and that is that Expedia Group is planning to debut. I cannot talk today. Debut an online COVID info search for 7 travel brands. Those groups include Expedia, Orbitz, Travelocity, Agencia, basically anything that Expedia owns. You're going to see this.
Okay.
They are partnering with a company called Surge, which has been a place that's just kind of like an online database with all the restrictions for
like the energy
countries.
Drink, like the one that
like the delicious 90s soda.
Yeah, the 90s cocaine drink. Okay.
I mean, that is back in 16 ounces, available at gas stations near you. But
that's disgusting.
Not a sponsor. But no, if you go to book your flights or any of your hotel information, you will see that country's information as far as what their restrictions are listed next to where you're booking. So you won't accidentally book somewhere that you can't actually go to. I think that's a good thing, and I'm really expecting other people to partner with this company, and it looks like American Airlines has already done so and is already incorporating it into their online booking tool. So I think we're going to see that a lot more from here on out.
Which is surprising, because I feel like for how much flack I love to give airlines, I've never had an issue with their direct selling from their websites. If I was going to package everything together, but I guess it just gives people more options, which again is always good.
So I want to clarify something. That article actually had a typo in it. It did say Surge, but as I read further down, the name of the company is Sherpa.
Oh, for the love of God.
Yeah, I'm going to link a different article on that than the one that I was reading off of because it's a company we've had trouble with not fact checking things in the
Oh yeah.
past.
So quick funny story about that. One of our sources that we use here. I have fact checked pretty much everything that he writes a little bit more slanted one way or the other,
Yeah.
but I have went. I sent him multiple emails last week, asking him to please proofread before he hits publish, and he responded. And he was not very happy. But if you wanna act like a journalist, then maybe make sure you don't have typos. Or I'm not even asking for commas in the correct places, for the love of God.
That might be a whole nother video for YouTube
Yeah,
exposing.
that's exposing how terrible journalism in the travel world is.
Yeah.
I
Oh
want to
boy.
I want to go to I want to go to a reopening here for people that
Cool.
are wanting to travel. Puerto Rico. They just announced that they are opening Ponce and Aguadilla airports. So they reopened two of their international airports on April 1st. It was not an April Fool's. So this was just, about a week and a half ago. And since Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, it is excluded from CDC requirements to provide a negative COVID-19 test to enter or return to the U.S. So this is huge because this just means it's easier to travel to and from and still go on vacation, feel like you're far away. So yeah, I want to make sure that I touch on that because with people wanting to travel this summer, that is definitely Puerto Rico is an option. And they're
Right.
offering, let's see, it looks like JetBlue is now offering flights from JFK and Orlando to Ponce. And then Spirit even has offered service from Orlando to Aguadilla. So,
Yeah, if you're gonna fly Spirit, check out the link down below that I'm gonna leave. It's an affiliate link for Amazon, but it is for the perfect personal size travel bag that you can
oh.
take on these flights where you don't need to pay an extra fee.
Yeah. And I think that we did a video a long time ago, a YouTube video on that. And yeah, but yeah, include the link because it's fantastic. And I want to say
Yeah,
it was pretty cheap for what
it's like 11.99 or
yeah, I was
something.
gonna say it was under $20 and it's perfect for if you're flying budget.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's keep up with the reopening news because I like reopenings. They're positive. The islands of Tahiti have announced that they will be reopening to international travelers on May 1st, so just in a couple of weeks here. They said in order to do so, they are going to put in place a protocol at entry of their borders using testing, vaccine, and an ETIS, an electronic travel information system, aka a vaccine passport. Just another way to say it. They haven't announced exactly how that's going to work yet, but we kind of expect to see that in the next couple of weeks. But overall, their borders are going to be open and you will be able to travel to those beautiful islands once again.
That's fantastic. I love hearing the reopening news. Obviously, when it comes to international travel, there are certain places that are going to be reopening faster than others just based on variants and just based on what we know about the vaccine so far. I'm sure as time goes on and we're able to see kind of, are these vaccines going to be effective at all against the variants? Are they going to be good enough against the variants to keep that herd immunity going? We'll see.
Yeah, so one more reopening that I actually have two more, but this one is specifically of a country that isn't necessarily seeing a decline in cases and are reopening their borders anyway. And that Greece has announced that the Hellenic Republic would open its doors to tourists on May 14th. Uh, it literally says despite the danger of the COVID-19 situation in most Grecian countries. But
Uh,
if you want to go there, it'll be open.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, that is over a month away right
It
now,
is.
and you're thinking that a lot of, at least Americans, um, a high percentage are able to get the vaccine now, at least their first dosage, and you're thinking by May they'll at least have the second dosage. If they probably won't have their 2 weeks to have it all kick in, but um, yeah, I don't know. I'm very mixed now because I feel like
Yeah.
now that I'm vaccinated, I'm going to travel.
They
That's
see,
we've
yeah.
waited, and I feel like at least on a personal level, the sacrifice has been there to make sure that everything is done properly. And now that it is, obviously I'm going to choose wisely where I go, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to go to Greece because
Yeah.
that scares the hell out of me that they're just like, yeah, let's just do it. And then, the majority of Europe is saying, whoa, 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 we're getting some crazy variants in here. We just don't have enough data yet to really make an informed decision on opening.
Yeah, I mean, my first trip is still going to be domestic, and I'm still doing it as a road trip, mostly because wearing a mask on an airplane isn't the most comfortable thing in the world. So if I can drive, I might as well. But I agree with you. I'm going to definitely be strategic about where I travel, probably over the next year at least, until we see things open up. But as you mentioned, actually, as of Monday, every adult in the U.S. is eligible for the vaccine, and most cities have ready availability for you to sign up and go get it. So we should see, as long as there's less vaccine hesitancy, we should see a lot of people getting it. And as travel industry professionals who love our jobs, we encourage you to go get it because it
so
helps
it's
us
been
keep our jobs.
it's been let's see, on our last podcast, had I just gotten the vaccine? I think I was going to get the vaccine.
You were going
correct?
to get it. Yep.
So just negative side effects. So I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and that's so extreme fatigue. And as somebody who's in pretty good shape health wise, I don't eat super bad. I work out quite a bit. They say that it affects healthier people more so than just because our immune system is better than, somebody who might have a pretty a pretty bad existing condition or elderly. Obviously your immune system is not going to be as well. The only negative side effects that I had, my arm hurt. It hurt real bad. I just felt really tired for probably 3 or 4 days, and I have a swollen lymph node. And honestly, that is a very small price to pay for peace of mind. And also, not just that, but you think the Johnson & Johnson is 15% less effective as of right now that they've tested than the other vaccines. But if everybody had just one of them, it would bring us up to that immunity as a people. So I would not let it sway you. I was very hesitant on getting this particular one just because of the big company that is backing it. But you know what? You just have to kind of bite the bullet at some point, and if you want to travel.
When it comes down to it, all three of these vaccines are backed by some of the largest drug manufacturers in the country. All of them are big business. Two of them are huge.
Big pharma.
Yeah, two of them are the biggest names in big pharma here in the U.S. And on top of that, the reason that the efficacy rate is lower on that Johnson & Johnson vaccine is because it was tested against new strains, and the other two weren't.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you would expect.
So I'm a god. I'm invincible. I'm going to Greece. Sold.
So when Andrew has COVID next week, no.
That is one thing I wanted to mention though. That even if you still get COVID when you've been vaccinated, which you obviously still can, that is definitely not saying that you can't. They're finding that 0% of the people have to be hospitalized, which is huge. This means that you're just getting flu-like symptoms. It's just like getting the flu after you've been vaccinated. So you feel a lot more confident traveling.
I would agree with that. So back to our reopenings, I have one more, and it's something that we touched on. It's something that closed last week that had been open and is reopening, kind of thing. It's just the travel bubble between New Zealand and Australia.
Okay.
They had a travel bubble. There were a couple of cases, so they closed that travel bubble down, and they weren't able to travel between the countries. They have resumed quarantine-free travel between the two countries.
That's fantastic news. That means that maybe they will be opening borders to vaccinated people, hopefully.
I would expect it to come,
I don't know if it'll be this year. I don't know if they'll do it for the summer travel, that maybe they'll do it for like the fall. But
yeah, that's kind of what I was leaning towards, seeing a lot of fall leisure travel open back up.
Yeah, it's hard because Australia and New Zealand, not just those, but any of the island nations, Japan, Iceland, all of those places had the most strict travel restrictions just because of the nature of their countries, and it really benefited them.
And you got, yeah, most of those countries are already back to normal. You don't have to wear a
Yeah.
mask, you don't have to socially distance without even having the vaccines
Vaccine
readily
yet. Yeah.
available yet. Yeah.
Hmm.
Australia is one of the last places to get the vaccine, and things have been basically normal there for a
Yeah.
good 6 months at this point.
Same with New Zealand. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's and I believe I haven't heard any news from Japan in a long time. So I assume
I
that
haven't either.
no news is good news on that front. And even I saw China was now they were downgraded to like an amber alert for through the CDC
That
as
was a poor choice of words.
you know what that's what it's called. They were
It's
downgraded or upgraded, downgraded. I don't know. They're not red
um,
anymore. They're yellow now. So meaning that they're doing a lot better than most of the world.
no one's child has been taken.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that was a whoopsie.
Oops.
Um, well, I have just a couple things here that we know that I like to bash a few airlines when the news arrives. So a couple things here. This one isn't necessarily a bash. This is kind of what to look for in the future. So this one was by Travel Weekly, and it just says the title. It was an opinion page, or an opinion article of U.S. airlines should be grateful for pandemic aid. I wholeheartedly agree.
Well, yeah.
This is just to put it into perspective. If anybody remembers when our big three, Delta, American, United, carried out their 3-year long campaign against Gulf carriers, Emirates, Qatar, and Etihad. This was when they accused them of violating international air transport agreements by accepting more than $50 billion in state subsidies over more than a decade. So this it, that figure, it sounds very large, but the airlines globally have received $215 billion in government support during the 1 year of COVID-19. So 50 billion over a decade, or 215 billion in 1 year. Now this is kind of between, so anybody that is not really familiar with what the airlines have received during as kind of this bailout was the payroll support the airlines received. So this is, they keep so many people employed, they get billions of dollars to do so. It basically just protects the payroll.
Yeah.
um so this is a total of $58 billion in payroll support since the start of the pandemic. A large majority of them provided as grants, um, and then a small portion rendered in the form of low interest loans. I don't know any of them that took part in these low interest loans. I'm pretty sure they just used the grants, because I don't know of any companies that quote unquote took advantage of low interest loans from the government.
Same.
But this article, it kind of just sums up, are we going to see airlines act like they're humans or act like they care after being bailed out so much? I'm going to say no, because it's still a business. I
Safe
don't
bet.
think greed is a very powerful tool, a very powerful asset to people that run these kind of shows. So I would say probably not.
Yeah.
When have the airlines acted like they've been grateful for anything? And that's, Delta included, as my favorite domestic carrier. I don't think that any airline has acted in, the best interest of the customer, because that isn't how it works. um
And when it comes down to it, that is unfortunately just business. That's what they do, and it's all they
it's
do what they
capitalism.
yeah, they do
Yeah.
what they have to do. But when it comes down to it, air travel is a major part of infrastructure, and for a lot of people it's not like a luxury, it's a necessity, especially in the business travel world.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have customers, honestly, no matter what they do.
Exactly. It's not a monopoly in the sense of the word, but if you want to fly, and all of these airlines are kind of in cahoots with each other, yeah, that's you're going to have to do it. I want to so we'll go into the bashing now because I want to after
Woohoo!
kind of bringing that up, that article up. American Airlines lounge at Chicago O'Hare was cited by the health department.
Oh
This is
boy.
not great news. Seeing how we are still in the middle of this pandemic, and cleaning is supposed to be at an all-time high. They've oh gosh. So
I'm so terrified of what you're about to say.
okay. So the health department came in. They found white mold substance in walk-in freezers of the flagship lounge at O'Hare, and found approximately 25 small living flies on the wall in front of buffet service area and in the bar area. So that's the Admiral's second floor. Um, they recommended to contact licensed pest control for service, and they issued violation 738-020.
Go to
That,
the American Express Lounge.
right, yeah. So that's disgusting, and this is
That's
a
gross.
lot of people are kind of criticizing, saying, oh well, they could cite half of the lounges at the O'Hare airport. Well, they didn't, and I assume that if they were there, they probably checked all of them while they were there, but
Yeah.
this one made news, so your argument is kind of invalid. Also, how does that happen when things are supposed to be so clean that COVID won't survive, but we've got live flies and white mold? I don't understand. Um, so yeah, I wanted to bring that up because American Airlines, you nasty. And
Yeah, that's
then
gross.
another thing that some backlash that happened, which I I want to get your opinion on this because I find
Okay.
this article controversial in certain ways. So this is another American Airlines, and it's regarding dress code. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a woman who was wearing a shirt. It was a hoodie that said "fuck cancer."
Oh,
Now,
I did hear about that.
yeah. So this uh, if you read your actual agreement, when you purchase a ticket, if you sat there and read through it all, you are not allowed to wear any clothing that displays offensive statements, inappropriate language from being. You cannot wear those when you're on board. And that obviously is most likely for children. Because most grown adults are not going to be offended by words, but you don't want your 6-year-old saying, "What does that shirt say?"
Wait.
And
You just said most grown adults are not going to be offended by
shouldn't be
words.
shouldn't
Like
shouldn't be shouldn't be offended. If I didn't say shouldn't, that was a
shouldn't.
slip.
That was a
Shouldn't be
slip.
offended by words. Um, and American Airlines kind of came out with a statement here that they're apologizing, saying that its policies do prohibit the statements in inappropriate language being worn on board. So the passenger was breaking its rules, but American Airlines, now they're saying, but its employees, quote, should have taken the broader context of the message displayed on the customer shirt into consideration when explaining our policies, end quote. So the airline's employee was in the wrong for enforcing their own company policy because the airline wishes to reaffirm its supports for efforts to fight cancer. Um, so basically, what they're saying is um, the rule is up for interpretation for every airline staff member, but if you choose wrong, then we're not backing you.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
obviously, this woman made a big deal about it. She's a 2-time cancer survivor, so obviously that it probably, she's probably sensitive about the issue. And, the statement, obviously, fuck cancer, is not in the sense of like, go fuck yourself. It's,
Right.
it's like, fuck a disease. But with that being said, I want your take.
This one's hard, and I'm glad you're asking me for my take because I have pretty strong opinions on these things, doing the reselling and things like that. Especially,
Hmm.
I'm not going to get into it, but the whole Lil Nas X Satan shoe situation, I had very strong opinions about that because of the way things are written. And in this situation, when you work in the travel industry, you know that terms and conditions, those T&Cs, are absolutely everything when it comes to booking any type of air travel.
Hmm.
It can end up costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars to change tickets because you didn't read one sentence.
Yeah.
uh at this point, if the airline policy is written that they do not allow profanity, I do not believe that the airline should not be backing up their employee and saying, we will review our policies to say if they need to be changed. I think the only correct stance in this situation is our employee did the right thing by doing what they were supposed to do following policy. However, we can understand why that policy may have been hurtful to some people, and we will review it and see if there's a way we can change it in our terms and conditions.
Yeah, I think that would have been the professional way to handle this whole thing. It's I actually agree in the fact that the company should have backed the employee, especially since that's listen, if you're wearing that hoodie and let's say it also, I would say it depends on how the situation was handled. I didn't see any video or anything of
I
what
didn't
the
either.
original altercation. If I was a flight attendant and saw that, I'm going to be honest, I'm probably not saying anything. But if I were to say something, it would definitely be in a I noticed that your hoodie says this. This is against our policy. I assume that you're not just wearing a hoodie. Will you please take off the hoodie while you're on board?
Yeah.
Um,
And most airlines in situations like that do have other clothing that they can offer a passenger. I know, like Southwest, there's situations where, if something horrible happens and a passenger has an illness and they need a new pair of pants or something like that, they do have those available.
they
They
poop
just
their
give,
pants.
yeah,
Yeah.
they just give them a pair of uniform pants or something like that. So
Hmm.
you're right. It completely depends on how the situation was handled, because it would be, I'm sorry, I first of all, I hope you're doing better. I'm glad you're beating cancer.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
wonderful. However, because of our company policy, I do have to ask you to remove your sweatshirt. Do you have something on under that, or is there something else that I can get you? It's just the way you approach it is
If it was done in a
100%
power trip, I can totally see this woman reacting that way because I might
exactly.
react the same. It's a human instinct that you respond with the energy that you're given. It's in a lot of situations. So if somebody's coming at you, attacking you like that, saying, "Ma'am, you're gonna have to get off right now because that we don't allow profanity on that shirt, and you're breaking our rules. You need to get off the plane right now." Like then, obviously, I'm gonna lose my mind. Even as a bystander, I would probably say something and
Same.
I'd probably get kicked off the flight as well. But um, I believe that when you work in customer service, as Justin and I have for many, many, many years, there's a certain approach that you have to have with everybody, and you should be able to read that situation. I feel like there really isn't an excuse because, again, like Justin's saying, if this is, I'm sure this woman said, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, and I would
Yeah.
absolutely be like, you know what, that great on you, like proud of you.
Right.
Like that's huge. I'm just enforcing our rules, and let me go check with just even if you're BSing, let me go check with the pilot and see if I have something else that you could just throw over top of that word even, and you can still even you put tape over it or something like just something to be within guidelines, and I'm sure it would be much easier. But to have them not back up their employee just really pisses me off because
Yeah.
it says their policy says dress appropriately, bare feet or offensive clothing aren't allowed, period. That's the entire sentence.
And
So
here's the thing, like, I agree with having a policy against certain things being worn on clothing.
yeah, if it
Uh
said go fuck yourself.
that doesn't even bother me as a parent. As a parent, even having young children, I could honestly care less about words being on your shirt no matter what they say, unless they're
Yeah,
like blatantly racist
racist
or
or prejudice or
yeah.
xenophobic. Yeah, yeah.
But I'm more worried about imagery, to be completely honest.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But there does have to be a line of what's okay and what's not okay. And there's honestly, in Americans' defense, it's really hard to define that line. Now,
Yeah.
I will also say I did not see this sweatshirt. Most of the fuck cancer sweatshirts that I've seen, the U is usually like a breast cancer ribbon.
Oh,
I
okay.
need to see that sweatshirt, because that also changes my 100%, like 100% changes my opinion on this. Because if that's the case and there's an asterisk or a ribbon taking the place of a letter or something like that, to me, suddenly that doesn't violate policy.
Right. Yeah. I'm actually no. I'm looking at the sweatshirt right now, and it's just two words. And
Okay.
it's probably like a custom shirt or a custom sweat hoodie or something that maybe like a friend got
Right.
her. And yeah, no, but no, it's just a lime green hoodie that just says it right across the chest. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah, I don't know. I regardless of your employees doing their job, and you're gonna apologize saying that they should have taken it into context, but in the policy it doesn't say take it into context. If you want to do that,
Oh,
then you need to put that in your writing legally, to be taken at you know the employee's discretion, something along those lines. But that that's enough on that. Let's bash
yeah.
United. So
Okay.
United, which is my favorite to hate on, they are considering. So this article is talking about outsourcing catering workers, while the executives are getting huge bonuses, um, which basically they United has came out and they have not disputed any of these claims of accepting the taxpayer bailouts. So $7.7 billion in taxpayer bailouts is what they've gotten this past year,
Okay.
and they're able to receive billions more. Meanwhile, they disclosed $7.5 million in bonuses for top executives if they stay with the company for 3 years or until federal restrictions expire.
Wow.
Um, so you think how terrible of a year it was for the airlines that they're needing these bailouts? Why are we giving their top executives millions of dollars? They did nothing. It,
No.
it and they're paying them to stay on. So the way that they're getting around this, because um the government in these, obviously they put restrictions in place for just this reasoning. They didn't want money going to these bailouts. They didn't want it going to the top executives. How they're doing it is they're putting it into their contracts where it's situationally, like a stipulation, you have to stay with us for the next 3 years or until the federal restrictions expire, which means if the government lets those restrictions expire, they're allowed to leave the company, and they still get their huge $1 million plus bonuses. Now, when it comes to their considering the outsourcing of catering workers, I do want to say that is pretty clickbait, because most airlines do already outsource a lot of their catering workers, and
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that they're flying. When people think outsource, a lot of people think internationally, like they're bringing in people from India and Malaysia, and
Yeah. No.
this is now they're just it means that they're using a third party company that
Yeah.
is going to be US based. It's not You're not going to be able to bring in people to cater from a different country.
On top of that, there's already domestic airports that require their airlines to use their third-party catering company. I know here there's
Right.
a specific company at Lambert Airport here in St. Louis that does the catering for every airline.
Yep, and
Um,
that's and every airport is different as well.
yeah.
So yeah, so I just wanted to touch on that, and but they did they have not disputed a claim that as soon as the federal extension for the payroll runs out this December, they're not disputing that they're going to be laying people off.
I
So
mean,
United already, at the forefront of being terrible for looking to the end of this year when the CARES Act 3 funding is going to expire, that they're already planning on furloughing workers.
they
But
are,
they can't do it because of the bailouts that they've received. They're not allowed to furlough until that date.
and we'll see what happens. Maybe air travel will pick back up, and by that time they won't need to furlough, and that's why they're avoiding saying anything. But let's be
Yeah.
real, if they needed to, they would.
Hmm.
All
So
right.
that's enough bashing. There's just one story I want to touch on that I thought was kind of interesting, because as we see marijuana becoming more and more legal throughout the US, it's something to be wary of if you're traveling internationally. There was an American arrested in Dubai for smoking pot before his trip. So he was in Vegas, and he flew to Dubai to look at potential recording studio locations for a video game that he's working on. 51-year-old was a day into his visit when he got pancreatitis and is sent him to the hospital. They did a urine sample, and it showed traces of pot in his system. This was within a day of being there. So if you smoked, it's going to still be in your system.
Yeah.
They took him to jail. After 3 days in jail, the man was confined to his hotel pending charges. So while being held in jail, where he had his IV line for the treatment, it became infected, and antibiotics that had been prescribed were not handed over by prison staff. So after being freed, he was repeatedly summoned to a police station and told that he would have his passport returned. He cannot leave the country until prosecutors decide if he should face a court. If you are traveling to the UAE, drugs are treated extremely harshly. The problem with this is that he did not purchase drugs while there. He did not do drugs while he was there. He did them while he was home where it was legal, but it's still, it says infrequent marijuana users test negative in urine after 1 to 3 days. However, if it is somebody that is smoking, daily, this can last in your system for a month or longer. So if you do smoke, I would make sure that you cleanse before going internationally. That's just, you don't know what laws are applying to you when you get over there.
That's a valid point. And, specifically referring to the UAE, even testing positive in a blood test for trace amounts of any type of cannabis metabolites. So even if you have a CBD that has a very low level of THC in it, if you get sick that day and you end up in a hospital and they have to do a blood test, you may see it. Now, obviously, if you don't end up in a hospital, that's not going to be a problem. They're not just going to randomly blood test you. But
right. And I would say if you do use like CBD oil, or like a CBD. I know a lot of them, they do like make like a cream now that you can like rub on your muscles. And so a lot of those have really small trace amounts of THC. I would make sure that you keep that on you, because I would say that they would probably be more lenient if you had like a
bad advice, because CBD is also illegal in Dubai.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Just screw you then. I would just not do any of those things before going internationally.
Yeah, and so just how serious it's going to be if they do decide to charge him with cannabis possession or use. There's a mandatory 4-year prison sentence in the UAE, so he would be expected to stay there and serve that 4-year prison sentence.
Yeah. So I don't know if you do this. I definitely don't do this, which I should. But you're supposed to submit medications you want to bring into the country in advance for approval. Now, this is very few people are going to do this, but this might be something that you want to really look into if there are certain things that you need to take. And I'm wondering if it was medicinal. I wonder if it would be treated as harshly. Probably not. I'm assuming if he would have said, this is for this reason.
So there's some clarification on that actually on the travel government site for the UAE, and they don't care. I mean, it is strictly, they do not allow any CBD, any THC in your system. Doesn't matter if it was medicinal, you will face a mandatory 4-year prison sentence if charged. The only exception is you can have hemp seed oil, which so
I did see that they have a certain list of controlled drugs with special conditions. Unfortunately, I don't speak Arabic, and it will not load in English. So I'm gonna look into that though, just because Dubai is a pretty cool place to go to, and if you do have medical conditions, then you definitely want to make sure it's something that you're allowed to bring with you, or get that kind of special permission from the government.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was an interesting story, because that is something I've never thought of.
Same.
Was if you do smoke frequently, or daily, that's you could end up in prison. So don't do that.
Don't do that. All right. So you got anything else on that, or can we jump into hotel news?
Just one last thing on the air world, and that is a change to a TSA rule, the liquids rule. So during the pandemic, we saw that they began allowing passengers to bring up to 12 ounces of hand sanitizer through the checkpoint. Obviously, that needed to happen. They just now added that you can bring full-size bottle of sunscreens to the list as because it's considered medically necessary. Um, and this was kind of the argument was that the liquid rule was literally killing people by discouraging them from bringing sunscreen with them on trips, since they'd have to check it in their luggage, and then luggage gets tossed around, the sunscreen comes out, all your clothes are basically ruined for your trip.
Yeah.
A lot of people just wouldn't do it. So nearly 10,000 people per day are diagnosed with skin cancer. That was probably the biggest number that allowed this change. So yeah, skin cancer researchers led the push for the change by TSA. So that's really, really kind of just a little tidbit that's actually pretty big news going into the summer months, and people are going to be
It
traveling
is.
again.
Yeah,
So I
that's
just wanted to let
huge.
people know that you know the TSA's war on liquids is slowly, the regime is ending slowly but surely. But yeah, that's it that we've got for air. So I think that we can jump into your hotel news.
Okay, so this is something that Marriott's testing. It came about because of the pandemic, but it's something they want to see into the future, and that is that they are testing contactless check-in via kiosk.
Yep.
Basically, what would happen is there'll be a kiosk instead of the front desk at the front. You would just scan or put your card in and take it out. It would check you in. You can already do this though on all of the apps for these hotel chains. You can actually get a digital key with Hilton and with Marriott, to the point where you never have to go even into the lobby if you want to go in through like a side door or something, which I think is even better. But
Oh, absolutely.
for people that don't want to use the app, this is an option. You can check in that way. You can actually also purchase a room if they have availability using the kiosk. But the bigger change for me, because this is something you can't do with the kiosk, is a grab and go marketplace that is being added in addition to these. That
Okay.
is a market that'll include things like sandwiches, Lunchables,
That
cold
you'd see at the
beverages.
airport.
Yeah, it's basically like something you would see at the airport, and you can just pay right there on the kiosk.
Huh. Now, is it going to be like a dispenser? Does it show any
Yeah,
pictures, or like, is it like a vending machine?
the picture that I am looking at, it looks more just like
Like open air, like
an open air thing, like you would see like a thing at
at
like
the airport?
or at the airport, yeah,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
even like a 7-Eleven's refrigerated section. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
kind
That's
of
what I was thinking of.
open.
Like, I was thinking of like Minneapolis St. Paul Airport. They have a lot of those around.
Yeah, and I can't tell if it's necessarily an honor system where you just pay for the things that you definitely want, or if they kind of utilize that mini bar technology that they have in some of the refrigerators, where if you pick something up, it knows you picked something up.
Which is, it still blows my mind that that's a thing,
It
and that
doesn't.
we're using it in hotels.
Yeah, it honestly doesn't work half the time.
Oh, okay. Well, I know better than to take anything out of those, unless the company's paying for it, and then we drink all and eat all the snacks. And
Next week, why Andrew got fired? No.
speaking of, I wasn't gonna go on any trips internationally, but I did get into my work PC in time to take a quiz to win a trip to Mexico. So if
Ooh.
we win that, odds are pretty good, I think, with how many people are furloughed, that it was the last day to take this quiz and get in, and I aced it. So it was, we'll see. I might be doing a little video if I'm going to Mexico.
Nice. You get to take somebody with you?
Yeah.
I
Trip for
really
two.
hate that you decided to get into a relationship, because now I can't piggyback off of that.
I know. I would have brought you, and we could have had just a bro time. But there's a very special woman in my life now that I would much rather enjoy on the beach with, as much as I love you.
Fair enough. I want to discuss something. I want to discuss something about a possible trip after this video anyway. So
Oh, okay, cool.
anyway,
So back to our hotel. Did you have anything else with that particular hotel?
Not that story, no.
article? Okay. I've just got I have one here that some Vegas news. The Win says that, what's that?
That's just where I want to talk to you about later.
Oh, okay, Vegas.
Yeah.
The Win says that the Vegas staff needs a vaccination or weekly test. So they are really pushing for people to get vaccinated, because who wants to go weekly to get a test to go to work? I wouldn't, honestly. So this is they're pushing to get more of its employees vaccinated against COVID-19. Recently said that the Wynn Las Vegas will now require all staff to either get fully vaccinated or obtain weekly proof of a negative test. And this was a video update by the resort CEO, Matt Maddox. Said around 4,000 employees, or nearly 60% of the staff that have been called back to work, are already vaccinated. So it says, he says the roaring 20s are right around the corner for Las Vegas, and this summer could be extraordinary. However, one of the things that our regulators have seen publicly is that in order for the restrictions to continue to be lifted, we need to continue to see increases in vaccination of our staff. Obviously, this makes a lot of sense, because if you're working in the field, you can't control if other people are vaccinated. You can control yourself, though. And if
Right.
you want to not get sick while you're at your job, that's the easiest way to do it. And
Yeah.
they're home to an on-property COVID testing lab. So
Oh,
the Win actually has an on-property Lighthouse COVID testing lab.
it's nice to hear positive things about the Win. They've had a lot of negative press over the past couple of years, so
Oh, yeah, that's
that's a
good
good
then.
thing.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll pass it back to you for some more hotel
Yeah.
news.
So mine's some positive news just about a brand getting more hotels opening this year, and that is Hyatt, who we kind of discussed,
Hmm.
kind of thrived throughout the pandemic. They didn't
Yeah.
really see that much loss in revenue, and we're still kind of in the black.
If I remember right, they had one of the biggest growths actually in 2020. That not necessarily revenue, but a lot of new properties expanded, as well as merger. I think there was a big company that
Yep.
they were merging with.
And that growth is not stopping in 2021 or 2022. Hyatt has 115 scheduled launches with 23,353 keys earmarked for 2021, and then
Wow,
an additional 24,665 keys for 2022. For those of you who don't know, that just means rooms. And
that's a
then
lot.
in 2023, they're going to slow it down to only 46 openings, and then already in 2024, another 69 openings.
Giggity.
Of the new 345 properties within this year and next, though, 208 of them will be in the 4-star property, and
Wow.
137 are 5-star. So all
So
of
they're
them
upscale.
upscale hotels.
Okay.
Uh,
That's good. That's good for that brand, though, honestly. Hyatt, I don't know if it's just public perception. I've always considered them more moderate to budget, I guess. I've never
yeah.
considered Hyatt being kind of an upscale brand. I just mentally.
Yeah, and it's positive news for the Asia Pacific region, especially because they're going to see an additional 164 openings, with China seeing 121 of those hotels. And
Wow.
then after the Asia Pacific area, you get North America, which we will get 126 properties, with 95 of those being right here in the U.S., adding
Okay.
19,519 rooms in America.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
hotel
great
growth,
news.
it's
Yeah.
crazy to see the growth.
It also confuses me.
It
Um,
it kind of
because
does.
a lot of the CEOs have been very public in saying we're getting crippled by Airbnb and the pandemic in conjunction, and yet their numbers say the opposite.
Yeah,
Um,
in my experience, with a wife working in a hotel and actually knowing what their occupancy rates are and things like that,
yeah,
that, for lack of a better term, is bullshit.
yeah, and wow, that's fantastic. Do you have more on that article?
No, that's really it. They
Okay.
do say they plan to expand their portfolio by 30 hotels in Europe and 14 in the Middle East, as well as 6 properties in Africa and 5 what they call schemes in South America, which just are not traditional hotels. They may be something a little more
Themed.
specialized.
Yeah. So I used to have to book those quite a bit for certain clients of mine, and they've basically got like uh each of them have their own little flavor of whichever area they're in. They kind of try to make them more like a boutique in the US. Like if you go to New
Yeah.
York, there's a lot of those boutique hotels that have certain themes. It's kind of similar for down in South America or Central America even.
Yeah, one other thing this article actually does mention that I think is interesting is that the fastest growing brand within Hyatt is Hyatt Place.
Oh,
So Hyatt Place is actually kind of a more limited service hotel. I would compare
yeah.
it to like a Drury Inn and Suites or a Hampton Inn.
Yeah. It's kind of
So
somewhere to lay your head.
yeah, and I think that it's definitely interesting to see that despite them building all of these new high end properties, that's still the one that's leading the growth for them.
That's really good news for him, honestly, just with
Yeah.
how the hotel world is at the moment, competing with kind of these staycation-esque properties.
Yeah, I think Hyatt's going to be up there with Marriott and Hilton
Good.
to the names you think of like that when you think of hotels.
That's we need more names up there with Hilton, which brings me into my article with the CEO running their mouth that probably shouldn't have said this, because I'm going to rip it apart. That the Hilton CEO says don't expect a return to regular housekeeping or fully staffed food and beverage. This is let me find I want to find his direct quote. That here we go. He says the work we're doing right now in every one of our brands is about making them higher margin businesses. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And creating more labor efficiencies. Again, keywords that he's using here. Particularly in the areas of housekeeping, food and beverage, and other areas. There's more to this quote, but I want to stop there, because the keywords that he's using right now is saying we're our brands are worried about making more money and creating less jobs, particularly in housekeeping, food and beverage, and other areas. Would you disagree with that assessment of me removing the keywords and adding the correct words?
No, I know what's kind of causing it just from,
Yeah,
firsthand knowledge of seeing what's happening in hotels. And it's really, I don't think this was sparked by greed this time around. Well, okay, it was, but not directly. So just to explain my opinion on this, I think it's come from them not able to find employees at the rates they were already paying.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're having to pay people, actually what they deserve, or closer to what they deserve, rather than bringing people in for minimum wage, because
Yeah.
nobody will freaking do it.
Closer, not what they deserve, I would
Yeah, I
definitely
don't.
say.
Yeah, I think there are very few companies that pay people what they deserve. To be honest,
That's true. That's
I
true.
think they're few and far between. I'm very grateful for my job, because I do
Same.
feel like I get paid what I deserve.
Yeah.
Obviously, I always think I deserve more, but I think if you don't have that mindset, you're setting yourself up for failure. But the
True.
rest of the quote here: when we get out of the crisis, those businesses will be higher margin and require less labor than they did pre-COVID. So
So I want to touch. I've read the article as well. I don't have it open, but specifically the housekeeping changes, I actually agree with.
okay.
They are basically eliminating stayover service, and you'll only get service when you check in and check out,
Now,
unless
what is stayover service? Where
so
they're changing everything daily while you're there?
stayover service comes in,
Okay.
and yeah, they're changing your linens daily, they're cleaning your room daily. This would eliminate that completely unless you're staying for 3 or more days, and
I
then
assume, or you request.
or you request, and
Yeah,
every 3 days you would be able to get that service. As someone
I
who
agree with that.
same, yeah, as
I
someone who
love that,
prefers people
actually.
not to come in and out of my hotel
Yeah.
room, I love that.
I actually get extremely stressed out, because I think that I forget to leave the do not disturb or don't clean little door hanger up. Like, it will stress me out while I'm out, because I'm like,
Yeah.
shit, did I put that up? Or, like, am I going to come back? There's going to be stuff moved, missing, lost, thrown away. Like, that stresses me out. So I am 100% okay with that.
Yeah, and with Hilton, that's how it's been since the beginning of the pandemic, except for the 3 day thing. It was no
Okay.
stayover service unless you requested. They're going back to the 3 days, but that change was coming long before COVID ever hit. And it's one that I
That should
support.
have already been a thing, you would think. Even with COVID, it would make things it would
Yeah,
make things, I feel like, more safe. You
yeah.
shouldn't be getting your own room cleaned daily. It's your room.
Yeah,
And then
and
you're
you
just
can
exposing the cleaning staff.
right, and you can still switch out towels.
Yeah.
If you see a housekeeper in the hallway, you can ask them, or you can always go to the front desk and switch out your towels. As far as getting your bed made and stuff like that, honestly, you're on vacation. Who cares? If
Or
you
make
need
your own bed.
or make your own bed. If your sheets need to be changed, that's another story. I
Right.
can
Yeah, you would
see
clean.
wanting it every 3 days for that reason.
Yeah, you get a little frisky, and yeah.
That
I feel you. Yeah.
yeah.
Things get a little weird. There's wine everywhere. You've ruined 3 sets. Yeah,
um,
exactly. But we should thank Justin's wife for being in the industry, so we can get a little bit more
yeah.
context to this article and this statement, because yeah, this is eye opening for myself.
So food and beverage changes, I actually have some knowledge on those as well.
Perfect.
One of the big things is they will be eliminating normal like dishes and things like that, and just going to biodegradable carry
Better
out
be.
containers,
Better be
basically.
biodegradable.
I will say Hilton's standards are biodegradable. I know some of the individual brands that own Hilton properties aren't necessarily obeying that.
Oh, okay.
It's really hard for Hilton to regulate every brand, every hotel
Every chain.
that uses their
Yeah.
name.
Hey, that if anybody's listening, you go to a Hilton property and they don't have biodegradable shit, you call. You let
You
us
call
know.
Hilton, yeah,
You call Hilton and
or
I'll
call
file
us.
I'll file it for you. I'll file it for you on a podcast. Exactly how to do it.
We should do that. But yeah, it's supposed to be biodegradable ware, and it's basically eliminating the need for them to wash dishes, which is going to save them a little more on their water bill, saves an extra
Yeah.
employee that's just washing dishes, so saves on labor costs. And honestly, I don't mind that much either. I don't like
No, that
having the
doesn't bother me.
dishes, and they don't then have to come pick up the dishes every day. So it eliminates an employee that's also coming around to pick up those dishes outside of your hotel room. So that's where the food and beverage costs are coming from. So when you really look at it, even though it does sound greedy in the article, and I agree with you,
Well,
that's
he
how
said
it
it like a
sounds.
douchebag
He
is the
did.
problem.
I agree.
Arnie, I know you're listening. Don't sound like such a douche when you're giving your statement. Maybe go into a little detail as to why this is taking place, because I would hate you if Justin's wife didn't work for you.
Maybe contact us to make your public statement for
There
you.
you go. Yeah, you'll hit your target audience for sure. And yeah, that's
But yeah, so like those two things, those changes, those are things that I feel should have happened a long time ago anyway. I mean, honestly, people may argue, yeah, we're going to have trash that's not going to get recycled from the stuff, but biodegradable containers are actually better than using physical dishes and things like that because they biodegrade and don't waste water
right.
to clean them. So there are
There's always
positive
going to be that
changes.
argument. Yeah, exactly.
There is a negative side that you are going to see some job loss from it, but I don't think you're going to see layoffs because they're having trouble getting staff right now anyway.
Right, and you're going to see the pay increases happening on
Yep.
like a nationwide level because they can't get anybody. It's kind of it that it reminds me a lot of the meme stocks where, just keep holding. That's
Just keep holding.
if you just hold, that's all you have to do, and it works. It truly does. When you don't go work for a company for $7.50 an hour and no one else does, guess what? They have to be in business. They're going to need people. They're going to raise their starting wage.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And now is the best time for a reshape of this when people are able to get unemployment and the government is helping out with unemployment during the pandemic. This is a perfect time to take advantage of that. You've got through September. Let them sweat. Make them want you to come work for them. This is how it should be. This is how, quality employees are made.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this. And I'm glad that I had your insight over kind of what this means for the Hilton brand in general.
Yeah. Honestly, they're changes that should have happened years ago as it is.
Yeah, I agree. And it's one of those things that I think probably nobody thought, just it was kind of something nobody thought of. You don't really think of, hey, you know what? What if we just didn't clean the rooms while people were in that? Because that's kind of silly.
And I'm going to be totally honest from the perspective, forget my wife's. I was a former hotel housekeeper as well. And for my
I'm
perspective,
telling her you said that. Forget
well,
my wife.
it is incredibly uncomfortable to clean stayovers. And that is because the ability to accuse somebody of stealing something from you is
Right.
strengthened. And guests do that. They will accuse you of taking things even if you didn't. And this eliminates liability for them too. This probably eliminates hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuit money for Hilton as well. Because if you're not cleaning a room unless somebody has already checked out, you can't accuse them of taking anything.
Right. Exactly.
So
And like we're saying, it's so easy. They're still gonna have all of these things on hand. Like
right.
they're still gonna. It's not like they're just gonna leave everything dirty. It's just that
No.
they don't have to do as much laundry as much because it's not being wasted. I feel like a lot of it is waste, and you can always call the
Yeah.
front desk and say, "Hey, I need more towels. I need my towels. I need sheets. I need like a pillow. They're gonna have these things. You just have to make a call.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you, you are not going to be losing any laundry employees in a hotel, even if you just
Right.
switch to checkouts, because there's plenty. And come the summer months, you get additional things like towels from people using the pool and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
There's never a time in a hotel when all of the laundry is clean.
I will have to take your word on that. That's the
Or my
last thing I had.
house, for that matter.
Yeah, I feel it. Yeah, with children, it's a never-ending battle.
Yeah,
That's the last thing that I had on hotels, though. Do you
same.
have any? Okay, perfect. I will just kind of jump into just a random article here before I got a couple thing on cruises, since I know that people are kind of looking towards that for the kind of updates on. I want to kind of keep a cruise update as I'm getting news in, but the Malta, which is reopening. They are now going to be paying tourists to visit this summer. And this will include kind of like a credit when you book a hotel direct. So
Oh,
this is complete. So the hotels are covering half of this subsidy. So avoiding commissions to agents helps further this rebate. So hurts us, but
ow.
yeah. So if you book a
It's
5-star,
not hurting us, honestly, because we
yeah,
both work
no,
in corporate
we work
travel,
at
but
corporate travel. We're gonna book you where you want to go, and we don't really care about commissions. That's why we get paid what we get paid
yeah.
to give good service, no matter where you're going. So it depends on where you're staying, what kind of property you're staying at for these rebates. So if you're staying on the island of Gozo, Gozo, you receive 10% or more, basically paid for you. Um, and if you're staying at a 5-star property, you receive a €200 rebate, which is honestly it probably averages out to like a free night. So you're probably getting a free night's worth in this rebate. 4-star, you're getting 150. 3-star, you get €100. So that's why they come up with the maximum of you can receive up to €220 to help support a stay in a 5-star property on the Maltese island of Gozo. I would not be surprised if we don't see other countries that really heavily rely on tourism to be offering these kind of promos for this summer. The ones that are going to be reopening, at least. I would be very surprised if we don't see probably Iceland doing something similar. Maybe not a hotel stay, but a vacation or maybe a tour package. Maybe if you sign up to go whale watching, then you're going to get a credit. Something along those lines, because they just want they want to get people there.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, I'm gonna keep my eye out for more of these kind of cool, um, touristy spots that people might want to go to, that they can save some money on.
Nice. All right.
But I'll pass it over to you if you have anything else.
I have just a little bit of rental car news, and I'm not going to
Okay.
read directly from the article. I just kind of want to discuss what's going on and why rates are insane.
Okay.
Uh, and that is that over 2020, in order for these rental car companies to not go under, what they did was sold off the majority of their rental car inventory.
Mm.
So because of that,
To
there's
cover losses, I'm assuming.
exactly. But because of that, there's a very high demand right now and a very low supply. Rental car rates are actually at the highest they've been in about 25 years. And
Jesus.
for an example, right now I have a reservation pulled up, and if I wanted to go to Las Vegas next week and get a compact car through budget, it would cost me $115 per day.
So Ubering or
It-
walking.
or walking.
Yeah.
Little tip: if you ever go to Vegas, there's a public bus that takes you right to the strip, and if you're staying on the strip, you can just walk everywhere.
I
So
was gonna say at that point, and hotels are so cheap. You can get maybe not a top tier hotel, but a decent hotel that's either on the strip or very close to the strip for dirt cheap, because they want you gambling. You can get it, for
yeah,
$50 a night, and then you walk everywhere.
there's even
That's
ways to get it free, but that's a whole nother video.
yeah. And you know what? We don't got time for that in the pandemic world. I want to be out doing stuff. I don't got time to sit through a seminar
Well, not a seminar
or a timeshare.
just there's ways to play apps, free slots, get free thing anyway. But there are cities, like if I wanted to go visit Andrew right now, I'd probably fly into Flint as,
Yeah.
as the closest place. If I flew into Flint, I can get a rental car for $50 a day, which that's not a bad rate. It's still probably double what it would have been pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I got mine. Are you looking at compact still?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was under 40 when when I was looking at rentals, when I had to
Yeah,
get some car work done.
but the important thing to catch right now is that you're limited to 400 miles on that rental car throughout its use.
Which sucks if you're coming to Michigan, because
Which
Michigan is gorgeous. You're going to be driving away from Flint. You're going to be going to one of the lakes.
Yeah, and I think that's really what I just wanted to touch on and point out. Make sure you're looking at the mileage that's included on car rental bookings right now. Cars that traditionally included unlimited miles currently are very limited on the miles you have, and they charge you 20 cents per additional mile, and that adds up really fast.
Yeah, good call out, because that is something that a lot of people, even I mean, it probably affects very experienced travelers more so, because they're so used to seeing unlimited mileage, and
Yeah.
then they're not even looking at that. So, going back to work, that's going to be something that I look at, which I'm sure corporate contracts haven't changed too much. They're probably still unlimited mileage, but I can kind of touch on that on our next episode after I kind of get back into the flow of work and see. I'm curious to see kind of my contracts and how they've changed over the past year and a half.
Yeah, one thing this podcast has definitely done today is made me realize I want to make some other videos with tips specifically related to rental cars, related to Las Vegas. So
Yeah. Yeah,
expect more
we should
good
definitely
content.
do a Vegas one, maybe a potential trip that we will be going on prior to going on it, and then
That's not a
after the
bad idea.
fact and seeing how it went.
I like that, and I can talk about how I can get a free room.
All right, yeah, absolutely.
It's good times. All right, but yeah, that's the last article I had. I just felt like it was
Okay.
important to mention because I feel like a lot of people
Yeah,
are
no,
going to
that's a big
ignore
one.
that, and that's huge.
That could really hurt you. That's yeah, that like Justin says, that adds up quickly. As long as you're under the 400 miles, you're fine. But yeah, 20
Right.
cents a mile is very expensive for after the fact. Normally it was like 10 cents. So you're
Yeah.
looking at a 100% increase.
And it's rare to see it on a round trip rental that's not just, you see
Not
it
a
on a
one
one
way.
way all the
Yeah.
time, but not a one you're dropping off at the same place.
Yeah. So just a couple things. Nothing. I've been keeping my eye out for Alaskan cruise news. Since our last episode, we did touch on that, how it's proving difficult because of Canada's restrictions, as well as the U.S., as well as the CDC's restrictions, for cruises to be happening up there through the interlock. But so no news on that for this week. I'll keep looking for something to keep us updated, since I know that is a huge one for people wanting to travel on. But the first article I have here is Crystal Symphony will be the first cruise ship to Homeport in Antigua. This is going to be, let's see, from Crystal Cruises, obviously. The Crystal Symphony, set to sail 10-day cruises out of St. John's, Antigua, becoming the first cruise ship ever to Homeport on the island. So
Wow.
pretty big news for the island, honestly, especially with all the restrictions in place. I'm curious as to how that happened. So it looks like there was they've got two ships that are kind of doing this kind of routing, that is through Barbados, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Martin, and the British Virgin Islands. This return to service combined with the Crystal Serenity, so that's the other ship that cruises through there, but that one launches from the Bahamas. And then the Crystal Endeavor, which goes from Iceland. So both of these are in July. So 97% of the Crystal's ocean going fleet will be in service this summer. So this is pretty big, that this cruise line is going to be almost at 100% capacity of launching their scheduled cruises.
Wow.
So this is the CEO, Jack Anderson, was quoted saying, "Nearly all of our ocean crew members will return to work very soon, and we know they are excited about returning to the seas as our guests." Now, this is, I do want to touch on this. Reservations for the Antigua sailings open April 20th, and they implemented a vaccine mandate for all of its ships in February.
Cool.
So that started in February. So if you're borderline vaccine, if you like cruises, you're going to need to get one, because
Yeah.
this is not like a negative COVID test. They are requiring a vaccine to go on these cruises.
But here's the great news about that. It's going to be one of the safest trips you can take if everybody on the
Exactly.
ship is vaccinated.
Exactly. So people that love cruises, I've never been on one. It's never really been something that's truly piqued my interest. But with a child that's getting older, I'm sure a Disney cruise is going to happen at some point or another. And this is good. This is, I think, a really, I actually, I do want to touch on that for anybody that's listening that does have children. This is really big for the vaccine mandate because a lot of people don't really know what to do with their children to go on vacation because there are so many rules. And this may be obviously they don't have everything fine tuned yet, but that might be a very good option if they're allowing that.
That's true. Right
Um,
on.
the last thing that I had here was that if you're looking to go on a cruise for 2022 because you're kind of hesitant about this year, which is very understandable, they are telling you that to reserve it now. The booking curve for 2022 is at a record length. Um, and this doesn't really come as much of a surprise, at least to myself, just because of how uncertain this year is going to be when it comes to cruising. That a lot of people are booking out to 2022. So if you're looking to go on a cruise, I would definitely be looking, shortly, kind of at what options you're looking for, just because of um, it's probably going to be one of the strongest years for cruises. So meaning
For
it's going to
sure.
get expensive quickly.
Yeah, and we kind of discussed that we were expecting that to happen with airfares here in the coming months, and surprisingly, I've seen over the past 2 weeks a reduction in airfare prices yet again. And because of demand, they're able to offer them lower. So we might skip over that inflated airfare period completely, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I meant to touch on that earlier when we were talking about air as well, because I've been looking internationally, just random certain locations that I like to just to see kind of how it's fluctuating. Because you can always use Google's, oh, this is the best time to book and this isn't, but you can really kind of see for yourself month to month a more accurate depiction. So I've been doing that, and it looks like, yeah, international even is still kind of way down to what it was last year, the year before, or I guess 2 years ago.
And that's the thing, increased demand. If they get more demand than they've ever had, they're going to be able to keep the prices lower, and they're going to have to because there's going to be competition again. So,
Yes, yeah, the competition is really, I think, what's going to be driving it.
yeah. All
So
right.
yeah, that's all I had for this week. This was definitely a long episode. We had a lot to go through.
It was.
So we're gonna put some little thumbnails in the YouTube if you can't sit through the whole podcast here. If you're just interested in certain things, we'll try to make it a little bit easier for you guys.
Yeah, I'll have to figure that out while I'm uploading it, mark those little points and add those little timestamps, but I will definitely go through and do it because this one is a long one. Just one quick thing at the end is that, we are both back working in the travel industry. That does allow us to have some discounts to going certain places and things like that, that hopefully may be able to create more content for our YouTube channel in the future. So, in addition to positive news for the travel industry for the year, I think there's positive vibes coming to the YouTube channel for us too. So hopefully we have videos coming over the next couple months. I know I'm planning on making some, and Andrew, if you go somewhere, I'm sure you'll take a cell phone with you at the very least.
Oh yeah, yeah. I will I will be pestering the lady friend absolutely to record. So yeah, we'll definitely be traveling here quite a bit.
Yeah, when you're a YouTuber, you get into a relationship to have a videographer.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, again, guys, I want to thank everybody for listening or watching, whatever way you consume this wonderful entertainment. But until next time, my name's Justin. That is Andrew. Thank you for joining us on Unknown Destination, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good one, everybody.